Hi, my name is Cara and I'm 36 years old and I live just outside of Inverness in a little place called Tornagrain, and I'm a primary school teacher in Home Primary School. I started to feel just not myself, and I was getting quite a lot of abdominal pain and a lot of bloating, and so I was going back and forth to the GP and it was just becoming more uncomfortable rather than a pain, I suppose. And then that kind of progressed into lower back pain. And I was going again back and forth to the GP and they thought I had IBS. And at the time, work was stressful, life was stressful, and it all kind of linked. I had a bit of a flare-up of eczema, which was particularly bad for my for me. So I went in that day and they put me to sleep and I woke up and I was like, oh, that obviously wasn't so bad because I didn't feel anything. I was just waiting to essentially go home and the consultant came through and she said, oh, can we have a quick chat? And I knew instantly something wasn't okay. And although she couldn't tell me at that point that I had cancer, she kind of knelt in front of me and she put her hand on my leg. And I was like, is this bad? Do I have cancer? Am I okay? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? I just knew. And she said, look, I can't. She couldn't really tell me a whole lot, understandably, because I don't think she expected to see what she found. So essentially what she found was a tumour that she believed had gone beyond high-risk cells. It was essentially what she believed to be cancer, but she couldn't confirm or deny because she didn't know for sure. Maybe a week and a bit later, I got my official diagnosis and the consultant had taken me in to discuss options. And he had asked at that time, he was like, do you have children? And I was like, no, we don't. And he said, well, do you want to have children? Because this treatment will impact your fertility. So he then put me in touch with Aberdeen Fertility Clinic. So it was quite quick. I believe it was only a few weeks. In fact, I think it was maybe 10 days from my diagnosis to being on my way to Aberdeen to start egg retrieval process. I didn't really think too much about the fertility process at the time. At the time, I seen it very much like a tick box exercise, which is so, like, when I look back on it now, that was a really hard time. The emotions, the hormones, and the change of your future. I think you always assume you'll have children in a certain way and it's going to look a certain way. And you don't really veer too far away from that in your mind. So when all of a sudden that's kind of taken and it was said that I would potentially be able to carry my own children, but it wouldn't be natural, it would have to be like the IVF process at that time. And it's not until I look back now that I realise how challenging that time was, and so much changed in that short space of time. And there was quite a lot of loss, the loss of your fertility and the way that you're going to potentially parent or not. Like the process may obviously not work. So went to Glasgow to find that I would be getting a full hysterectomy and the removal of my bladder and bowel, which meant I was going to be left with 2 stomas. So my world collapsed. So to be told you're having organs removed, like your bladder's going, it's gone. Your bowel is going, it's gone, it's done. And the hysterectomy had already processed, I think. However, what that meant for my fertility is, although we have eggs, it would now be, I'm not going to be able to carry them, period. My children will not be carried by myself. If I'm lucky to find a surrogate, then that is the journey that we will potentially go on. Yeah, so I have 2 stomas, and that took a long time to get my head round and a long time to process and accept. And I don't think anything has ever really fully gone back to the way it was before. And I don't think it will. And I do find that quite hard, because I do feel like you start to mourn the person that you were. And I just have to believe that on the other side of all of this, when all the pieces have finally been picked up, that hopefully I'll be this better, stronger version, but you still miss who you were. This year is just going to have to be the rebuild and getting back to eating well, gaining weight, back to work, back to the gym, and just doing nice things. And I know that there's going to be a time where I'm going to have to really buckle down and process everything. Like, I know that I'm quite factual about it, and I know that there's going to be work to do so this doesn't hinder me for the rest of my life. I mean, I don't feel It's definitely sad, but I don't feel sad about it. And I don't feel angry about it. Lots of people used to say, oh, but why you? Like, you're so lovely. But why not me? Do you know, like, everybody's lovely and nobody deserves to be poorly. Nobody deserves to have a diagnosis where their life is thrown upside down. Of course they don't. This is just what was in my path, I suppose. And I suppose I'm very lucky that I'm coming out the other side and well and able to get back to some sort of life and piece that back together. Definitely gives you a new perspective of all the lovely things to be grateful for. Like, my family were incredible. Like, they were like little worker bees. Like, they all had their wee job and everybody just pulled together and just pulled me through the process and allowed me to break, and they kind of carried the pieces. So Catwalk for a Cause came about. My friend Kerry, she had suggested it to me, and I had almost agreed, no, I think I had agreed to do it last year, but because I was still so poorly, there was no way to tell at that point if I was still going to be sick. So I'd stopped being sick on the Christmas Eve, but I'd had like maybe a week to 10 days max prior to that of no sickness in little intermittent slots. So there was no way to tell if that sickness was going to come back. And again, at the time, I was skin and bone. I was really poorly. I had no energy and I just didn't want to let anybody down. And I thought I have to pull out sooner rather than later and not waste anybody's time. So I just promised that if I was well enough, I would do it this year.